we're recording the session. Now, which are these other platforms that are there apart from ODK and Kobo? So one, we have what we called honor.io. We'll also have a chance to see how that works. So we said honor.io. We have CS Pro. So you can go and confirm if whatever I'm telling you is true, because it's good you also have a knowledge of all these platforms. So we have CS Pro, we have Survey to Go. What else? So we have Survey to Go, CS Pro, Honor. Let me just mention that, but Survey Monkey. So there are a lot of platforms that are used for electronic platform. And even this interview session, you might be of an analyst, but a question will always come on the source of data. So as much as you're an analyst, you should also have the knowledge of where that data you are is coming from, and more so on the quality of that data. You can do analysis of the quality. So, like I said, we'll cover electronic data collection platform, and the same way we were doing in quantitative, whereby we had to code questionnaires into your SPSS before you go and say you're doing analysis. That's exactly what you're going to do here. So you will come up with a server, which I will demonstrate to you on how to do that. And then we'll also use the questionnaire. And I want you to go to, for those who are yet to, go to your email, the calendar, download all the files that are there, because those are the questionnaires that I'll be using in class. So that is one. We'll talk about data collection. Two, we'll talk about analysis. And with analysis, we will use either in Vivo software or Max QDA. And what does it mean when you talk about qualitative data? These are information that sometimes we refer to them as open-ended. Let me take you back to quantitative, because that's the only way I can relate at this level. If you recall on the question on sources of awareness with the NSSF contributor tool, whereby we were asking someone, which were your sources of awareness about NSSF? And we had closed questions, let's say radio, TV, and news. I think that's the one we were using more often. But on the last part, there was that question on other. And of course, you recall we said when somebody checks on other, they have no choice but to specify. So that part of specify, the type of data you're getting, if somebody's supposed to write whatever they had in mind, regardless, depending on the question that they were being asked. So when you're trying to analyzing that data, we said you will have no choice but to come up with themes. And themes are basically a grouping which contain respondents who are providing the same context in terms of their response. And we used an example, assuming maybe somebody was mentioning about Facebook, another person was mentioning about Instagram, and maybe another person mentioned Twitter. So you realize, as a researcher, you will notice that Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all of them are social media platforms. So when you will go and do your analysis, you're not going to report on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Instead, you'll say 3 of my respondents were mentioning social media. So the question is, what if you have 3,000 sample population? Will you read 3,000 response and try to come up with those themes? I will say that is going to be a lot of work. And that is the reason why we have now softwares which are meant to do that for you. So you can be able to develop themes, nodes, and so forth. I think we will have a chance to do that once we're done with the first phase, which is electronic data collection platform. After we are done with, now once we are comfortable with fieldwork, which we said we're going to use COBO and ODK for that, and then the data you have collected there, you know how to analyze using in vivo, or I will decide which one to use between MaxQD and in vivo. Hopefully I'll be the one taking you through that class. So you know how to analyze the data. The next thing is communication. How do you report these findings to the person who's supposed to utilize your work? And this is where report writing will come in, because you need also to know how to communicate. How do you write a research paper? And before you even write a research paper, I think you should first know the structure of a research paper. So I'll be taking you through the last part, which is more of research methodology, while trying to formulate a paper, a proposal, or a thesis that is for academics, or even a published document for maybe organization and so forth. Now, at this point, I believe we now have a clue of what we're supposed to cover. And let's go straight to creating a server. And what is a server? First, let me start that. One, you're collecting data in a server, or sometimes we refer to, you can call it a database. Okay, so we have a web interface or a platform. Now Kobo platform is now a platform that was created by, actually it's owned by the United Nations, and I think it's a collaboration between the United Nations and Harvard, and they provided the platform for United Nations agencies and organizations that are under the sectors of humanitarian. So all the NGOs and UN agencies, they tend to do a lot of surveys and research work. And because of the cost implication, of course, platforms like Honor, you pay for it. And it's the same concept. Let me go to, I'm not talking about anything new. If you go to your Gmail account, I'm sure you have a Google Drive where you can store your information, and you'll notice, I think you're only given a space of, depending, I don't know, is it 1 GB? And then you realize if you exhaust that space, then you'll have to pay for you to access more space. So it's the same concept. Now, Kobo is a free software because it's donated by, like I said, Harvard and the United Nations for the sake of humanitarian activity. And that is the server that you're going to create right now. And the drill is every information that you're going to collect on the field, it will be stored in this server. And then in case we want to analyze, then we will go and download that data file from this server. The same concept. If you want right now to analyze, let's say, national housing surveys that are being done in Kenya, you can just go to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics website and you'll be able to download that file. If you go to World Bank, the same way you can be able to download a file, and mostly we download those files as Excel file or CSV file. So again, even in this server that you're going to create, you will be able to download your file as a CSV, and then now you say, oh, am I analyzing using SPSS or I'm analyzing using in vivo, that is for quantitative and qualitative respectively. Now, I want you to go to your browser. Go to your browser. And then you can write there Kobo Humanitarian Toolbox. Open your browser. And then just Google Kobo Humanitarian Toolbox. And if you go to login or create an account, so of course the first step is to create an account. So we're going to create an account. It's simple. Follow the instructions. So if you go to create an account, have your name there. Organization, you can write any organization. If you don't have any in mind, just write that download. You'll be good to go. On username, create a username and make sure you remember this username because you will need it later when we're linking your mobile phone and your server. So create a username that you can remember. Also have email, the email address, of course, there's a link which will be sent there, so you should have an email address that you can be able to access immediately. On sector, select any as long as it has humanitarian. So let's say humanitarian education. Select any, you're good to go. Country, I want you to select Kenya, or sorry, I think my bad. I want you to select the country where you are at the moment, and I will clarify on the same. So there's a difference between where you are as the consultant and where you're doing your survey. So if you're in Kenya, then country select Kenya. But when you'll be getting a project and the project is not in Kenya, then you select the country where that project is done. But we will see the second part. So just for now, select Kenya. For those guys who are in Somali, select Somali. Gender, you know what to do. Password, make sure you also remember your password. You will need it during the part you're linking your phone and the server. Like I said, the password and username are useful. And create an account and you'll be able to log in. I think this is what we were talking about. We said this instance of Kobo Toolbox is hosted and supported by UNOCHA and can be used by any humanitarian organization. And for the sake of fair game, they're also reminding you that if you are not working for a humanitarian organization, please instead sign up for an account on this other instance, which is hosted by Kobo. So it depends who is hosting your server. So like I said, we're using the humanitarian organization, and the guys are going to host us at the United Nations. So they have also introduced and say what the Kobo Toolbox is an integrated set of tools for building forms and collecting interview response. I think that's what you want to do. And it's built by the Kobo company, which is a non-profit organization for easy and reliable use in difficult field settings such as humanitarian. So on conflicting areas, if you notice very well, in sub-Saharan Africa, there's a lot of humanitarian activities that are happening, especially on the north side, and this is where you guys can now take advantage of the same. And there's a lot of consultancy works that are out there, and most of them is just your ability to collect data, and you're good to go. So let's create an account. I'll give you some 5 minutes for that, and then we now proceed. Also, make sure you have the questionnaires downloaded somewhere, so you can create maybe a folder, download training material somewhere, and then have all your files together. So 5 minutes for you to have your server ready. let's log in. Log into your account. So if you look at, let's concentrate on my screen. And if you compare what I'm having at the moment, I already have a form with me. That means this is a survey that I've already done, and it was created on that year. If you see somewhere here, I'm told there are 93 submissions. So on your side, you're not having any form, but the goal is if you click on that form, I can be able to access the data. So of course the 93 submissions, that means there's some people who are sending their observation, and this is the goal of this class. You can be able to monitor what your research assistants are doing by observing the dashboard. So this dashboard is real time, and even with expectation, if maybe you did a pilot, and of course with pilot studies you will know how your distribution should look like, and in an event that maybe you are fluctuating from the findings of your pilot, you can be able to tell by the dashboard. You can be able to, of course, some of the things will, some of the data types that you can be able to get are like videos, photos. Also now with qualitative, actually, we will have to use a lot of audio, because assuming you are conducting an interview session with someone and the person is talking, you don't want your research assistant to be sitting there with their phone trying to catch up with what the respondent was saying. So you realize we'll be using a lot of audio. So all those data, you can be able to access them from the gallery section. Now we talked about the analysis. And with analysis, say you can download these files so that you go and analyze using any now tool that you choose to. So you can see I've already downloaded several instances, and it's also dated, so I can tell which data type or at what point did I download some files. And you can even start analyzing your data. before you even finish your survey. So you collected some data, you can just proceed and download, go and do some pre-mock analysis as you anticipate now the whole data to be collected. We will also have to create some map or some visualization, and this will help when now you want to monitor one your research assistant, and also where your data is coming from. So with the use of GPS coordinates, you'll be able to see that. You can come up with some sort of mapping, and this is useful even with the quality of data you collect. So you can tell how long does it take from one person to move from one household to another. And if you click in any of those points there, I think I should have a better map. So if I click on any of these points, you can see that that form is displayed, and I can be able to tell what kind of data was sent. So this is how you can actually manage a survey. Let's say I can be wherever I am at the moment, but I'm head of a survey in Hargeisa or Mogadishu without necessarily being there physically. So the way I code my forms will enable, uh, let's say myself, if I'm the data manager or the one in charge of all this project, to conduct that survey without necessarily being there. So we will do all this. I think that is what we're supposed to do here. So if that's what you sign up for, then you're in the right place. Otherwise, you know what to do. So where do you guys start? If you go to new, there are options for you, and at this level, we will talk of building a form from scratch. So what is a form? A form is a survey, and for instance, the one I've just been showing you is a form for, let's say, let's look, what was that all about? So if I come here to form, I want to access the, so yeah, you can tell the details of that form. So this is one form, the assessment. And now when we're going to create a new one, let's start with the NSSF contributor. And we're going to do more or less the same thing that we did in quantitative analysis class. It's just that this time the platform is different. Okay. So NSSF contributed to. So let's understand what this tool was all about. And on the introduction part, treats NSSF as requested a consultancy firm, and this consultancy firm was supposed to carry out a customer satisfaction survey. The management will use the results of this study to make changes that will help NSSF play a significant role in attaining a vision. So right now you know what this survey is all about. So this is an organization that wants to understand some few things about itself. And now a TOR is sent out there, and now consultancy firms can respond to them. So in an event that you succeed, so for those who are here and maybe they are looking forward to be consultants in the future, that's what you do. If you're selected, then your job will basically to create now this form that we're doing right now, and then employ some few research assistants who will now be collecting the data for you. So let's call it NSSF Customer Satisfaction Survey. So I'll build from scratch. Name of the project. You can give a brief description, that is if you want to. And maybe I can give an example of when this can come in handy. You can realize you have maybe two tools. Let's say there's a questionnaire and there's a KII, and you're using both of them for your study. And if you're calling both of your forms NSSF Customer Satisfaction Survey, then you can describe it as this one is the questionnaires and the other one was the KII. For sector, just select any as long as it has humanitarian. But maybe in the context of a real setup, maybe you'll have to select the exact sector that you're working. Now, this part of countries where we talk about where is this survey conducted. So for someone who is currently in Somali, so you created your server and you selected Somalia. But right now you will have to say Kenya. And maybe for Kenya, you can select a different country if you're getting the drill. Now, on this part, you can either give the consent that this data that you're going to collect, you can be able to share with other organizations. That is, if you check this point. Otherwise, if you create a project, then it means your data is safe. Why is it important with this part? You realize sometimes you can be doing a survey, let's say you're doing a need assessment, and maybe there's another organization also doing a need assessment survey in the same place or did that before. So you realize with the exchange or giving consent to other organization to access your data, is meant for the good of everyone. But again, it depends with the sensitivity of the information you have. So for me, I'll just create a project because this one is a more of a private kind of assignment. And now I'm good to go. So where do you start? Let's understand first the content of the questionnaire. One, we start with serial number. And we talked about this and said metadata are not necessarily supposed to be coded, or these are the information that are only meant to help during the fieldwork. So that is when you are using a physical questionnaire, then you will need to have serial number, maybe date of interview, name of the interviewer, as a way of monitoring where your responses are coming from. For electronic platforms, you don't need that because there's a lot of details that we will see. You can be able to access. Some of them are like the serial number of that phone, location, start time, end time of that survey. We have, of course, even the index for that form can also be identified. So a lot of details will not be coding. So where do you start? So one, I would start by having two scenarios. One, do I already have research assistants who are going to help me with collecting my data? Yes. So if I've already employed them, so I'm going to use each and every one of you as my research assistant. So I will have assistant name. So the essence here is, as long as your name is there, you'll have to just click on it. So if you have a phone, your name is. So let me start with the. So of course, each and every assistant is supposed to select one. So I'll go with the option. So what? How do they select? Somebody will just select their name. So under the option, I'll have my first assistant as Aisha. In case I miss your name, you remind me. Now, this is very important. In an event that you had created a new option, but now you don't have any option to enter there, don't ever leave like this. You cannot now say I'm going to another question. So these are some of the errors that will now make your form not to be deployed, and you don't want to be in this situation when you have handled, let's say, 60 variables. It will be hard for you to know where your error is actually coming from. So pay attention to what you're doing. That so in an event you have it, go and delete. And then so the next thing is, once my assistant has logged into the server, now I will go to the consent part, sorry, the introduction. And the essence here is you need to introduce yourself to the respondent. And the information is here. Please note that your views, so you are assuring the respondent that your views informed response to this question will be treated confidentially and will go on a long way in assisting NSSF realize her vision. So this is the vision of NSSF. So if NSSF wants to realize their vision, this is what they should be doing. So I will take the introduction part. And of course, my research assistant, they don't have to know all about NSSF and customer satisfaction, but that is relative, depending on what level of research process. You don't have to say I'm going for the form 4 level. But the advantage of going for, let's say, such a level is because they are mostly the host people. So if you are doing a study in Hargeisa, for instance, I would want to employ someone who is a local, who is available during the whole week, and they understand all the places around there. So you find when you have such kind of people involved in your research, all you have to do is tell them, read this information when you meet a respondent. So I'll copy the introduction part, and then go and paste, add a question, and I'll select notes. Why am I selecting notes? Nobody needs to respond to introduction. So it's just a statement that my assistant will read the respondent. I will have another question, and this time I have to ask for consent. So I'll say, are you willing to participate? This survey. Agree, or they can say no. One thing is, I want all these questions should be mandatory. So it's a must. So I can say it's a must for my assistant to log in the name before they can see any other question. So under mandatory, I'll go and say yes. And I'll do that for all these questions. So, but not at all time you'll be having all question mandatory, but we'll be able to see that as we review the questionnaire. But for these three variables that we have at the moment, make sure all of them are mandatory. So even the consent part, of course, even with the changing laws in the country, remember there's the ethical part of research. You cannot just wake up one day and say, I'm going to collect data in a certain place. So there are some documents that you will need to have. And one of the requirements is to ask for consent before you start collecting data from anyone. Okay. So we'll also have to connect on what happens if they say yes. This is when now they're supposed to see the rest of the questions. If they say no, then you can instruct your assistants to end the survey. But again, I would prefer we have location so that you can go and find out why did someone say no. If you're doing a household survey, you have assured them that their data is going to be confidential and you have all the legal requirements. Most of the time you can always can review based on now the location. And let's go to the demographic part, or you can say general information. So it's also good familiarize with the environment. So you cannot jump in and start talking about mission and core values of NSSM. Maybe you can start by talking about things like gender. And for gender, there's a specific instruction. So it says what? You observe and who the system. You just there's some people who are sensitive with things like gender. So you're you're with someone, whatever you're seeing is confusing. So you don't know. Again, you can say someone is male or female. based on their gender. But I hope you understand where I'm coming from. So with gender, it's still a select one. It can either be a male or a female. And now gender is part of a grouping. So there's the, I think it's the first section now. Call it general details. So how do we create section? So make sure you select this, the variable gender, and go to cell first. And you only know you've selected based on, I will trouble with my mouse. Come on. So you know you've selected gender based on the blue ribbon. So the entire cell or the box for gender will have a blue line. That's how you know you've selected variable gender. Then go to this part of grouping. Okay. I don't know if it's my computer or it's for, okay. I need to put this first. Yeah, I think my server is taking. So I hope on your side you're getting the drill. So create up to gender. Okay, I think you're good now. So like I said, you should be having this blue ribbon. Then go to create group with selected options. Sorry, selected questions. And then adjust the name. Okay, come on. Adjust the name of group. So delete all the elements of group and replace with now general details. I don't know if all of you are experiencing the same delay. Maybe you can communicate to me. How is the speed of your server? More, how are things on your side? Is there an improvement on your end? I would appreciate if we can communicate, otherwise I'll not know what to do. Yes, got it. Okay. Then I think it's the the whole place. So let's save the work. So keep saving so that in case of anything, you should not lose your details. So if you have coded maybe a lot of variables, realize you had if something happened. But if you select the question, go to create group with the selected question, then you should be able, oh, I think it's working now. So I'll replace with section A. Then now we go to the second question, which is engineers. In an event that you are ahead of me, there's no engineers is select one. So we're coding all the way down. So the faster you move, the better. But now, when you're adding question, you should pay attention. Are you adding a question as part of section A, or you're adding a question as part of new section? So engineers is part of section A. So I'll use the innermost plus sign. So the other plus sign is for a question that is now outside the, like assuming we're starting section B. So now I'll select the first one, and then I'll have engineer. So this is where we talked about how do you create variables. And they said you can either use the question number, or you can have the entire question there, like what we're doing at the moment. And in quantitative analysis, we used to create variable names. Yeah. So you should know that all these are there to work for you. So we look, I think for this has been forever, but we use the question number for this one instead of the entire question. So just copy the question, and like I said, you should be ahead of me. So these are the select one questions. So realize there's nothing new we're doing here. Select one, and then with the option, now you say option one is 18, 24. So do you say 55 and above or above 55? So it should be 55 and over. So that's logically say you have accommodated that person who's 55 years old. So the next one is occupation. Still select one. Either somebody is employed, self-employed, or claimant. Relationship to contributor. So code up to section B, and for section B, these one are multiple response. So in terms of add question, you select me. So just in case you are ahead of me, start exploring on the same. Remember. So for occupation, I think I can just guide you and then you can move at your own pace. For occupation, it still select one. Relationship, select one. Region, select one. So for station, just check the instruction that said what observe and record. So the essence here is people will be writing, they're supposed to write the text. So when you go to add question, just my computer is misbehaving. So let's go through some of the commonly used option and what they are supposed to do. And also I'll share with you some notes on what each of these options are supposed to do. So for now, we know what select one means. An event that somebody is only selecting one option, select one question. Now for section B, you will go with select many. For station, it's a text because somebody is supposed to write uh, the name of that station. So let's code section A and section B. And for section B, just code up to just leave alone mission and core values. That will be a different section. So just code section A and B. And then save your work. So unless there's someone who has challenges with those platform. So save your work. And if you close from here, so make sure you have been prompted that it's a success. So it has to be successful. And if you close, okay, this server is really okay. Just save your work, and if you close this part, okay. Now deploy. Deploy. Copy this link. Save your work. Close. Of course, we'll explain later on what is to deploy and how relevant it is, especially with fieldwork. But the drill is every time there's some changes in your form, you have to inform your assistants to delete the form that they would have downloaded in their respective phone, and they download and get a different form. So I think we'll have that discussion when we have connected the phone and the server. So copy this link, and that is the link I want you to share with me. So through your portal, there's the part of send a message. So first, you should, let me just, so if you go to your portal under qualitative analysis, I'm your trainer. So go and follow me, and also under the part of send a message, that is the link I want you to send to me. Okay, if there's a question, you can ask. So go to the class qualitative. I think that's where you'll find my name. If you go to profile, I hope we're getting all these instructions so that we don't have a lot of back and forth. Just go to my profile. And I said the first instruction is follow. This will help you access all my information, especially for my classes. There's the option of send a message. So write the name of the survey. So if it's customer, write NSSF survey. I think it's much easier. Your email address that I can be able to access. Of course, it's the same email address that you use for your calendar. I think that's the one I can be able to communicate with you. And then paste for me the URL there. I will be able to review what you have been doing. And send to me the message. Franklin, I don't know if you are still. I think we still have education and experience.